You know what time it is. You know what time it is. Welcome to the Infinity Sports Podcast, part of Belly Up Sports. It's me, Sully. I'm taking the lead today. We got Wayne over here. We got Jesse down here. Jesse making the guest appearance, blessing us with his beautiful face. We appreciate it, buddy. Once again, we are brought to you by Belly Up Sports. We really appreciate you being with us. Excuse me. We got a exciting show today. I'm going to take the lead, so you're going to get a lot of running and gunning on this one, guys. But it's going to be a fun show for sure. We got a lot to talk about: the NFL playoffs, the NCAA championships, Francisco Lindor trade that we didn't get to, all kinds of stuff to get to. So, yeah, let's get it.
Cool. I see Caroline Fowler put the flex.
Hey, that's my cousin. Love you, Caroline. You're the best. She's always supporting us, watching us. She's the best.
All right.
So honestly, like I said, we're going to wing a lot of this. So the first thing we're going to talk about, which we probably didn't plan to talk about first, but since now the show's on Sunday, is NFL playoffs. I think it's the best thing. First thing that just happened. It's fresh on our minds. Let's get to it. We were talking about it a little beforehand. Let's do the first game. First, Packers, Rams. Really no shock to me. If we'd have done the predictions beforehand, I thought it was going to be 35-13. I've got a ton of coworkers who can vouch for that. And I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to do his thing this whole playoffs. What'd you guys think?
Yeah, in that matchup of, the Packers' number one offense against the Rams' number one defense, we were really going to, see which side was better. And I think, it came to no surprise to anybody, at least on this show, that the Packers rose above, that Aaron Rodgers rose above. I wasn't really impressed with the Rams offense coming into the game. Jared Goff wasn't 100%, as we know. And Cam Akers actually did a pretty decent job, as he did last week. But overall, the Packers really overwhelmed them, especially in the second half.
Yeah, for me, I think that the biggest thing, I saw Brandon had made his prediction before the game of 31-17, so he was right there. Oh. And yeah, I mean, like Jesse touched on it before we got on the air, that once Aaron Donald went out and you can't put pressure on Aaron Rodgers, and I mean, give him all the time in the world to throw and he'll kill you. Yeah, no,
I think, don't get me wrong, I'm one of the biggest Jalen Ramsey fans on the planet, to be quite honest with you. I love the way he talks. I love the way he acts because, to be fair, he always backs it up. He's never not played or done anything like that. So even when he had his issues in Jacksonville, the guy showed up and played at an all-pro level. So I think he's one of the best. But Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers took that boy to school. And I just think it's more of a testament, I think, to Rodgers and the offense, though. Yeah, and his mind and his brain than it is like Devontae Adams beating Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, Rodgers' acumen really was flexing in the second half. He really knew what to do with that defense. And, as Wayne had touched on, the limited snaps for Donald really limits what that team can do defensively. And when you don't have Jalen Ramsey playing at his best, then that defense is certainly hurting. So I think it was no surprise to any of us that the Packers ended up winning that game. Wayne, I appreciate you bringing up our buddy Brandon because I'll never forget his preseason prediction of that same old crap Aaron Rodgers, and man, did he look masterful last night. I hope Brandon Combs watched every second of that game.
I've got comments coming in fast and furious, so just going through Paula Ray Bissonette, go Saints.
Yeah, there you go, Mama Bear.
Evelyn Fowler, we have watching with your nephew.
Oh, nice. That's my aunt. Yep.
Caroline says, love you. So that's your comment there. Tyler Jewell says, you guys are great. And again, Paul Arabisnet with Rodgers should be the MVP.
He should.
He was your preseason pick for MVP. And like I said, Brandon touched – not Brandon. Jesse, sorry about that, Jesse.
That's a shot.
Jesse touched on it that, Brandon had mentioned that Aaron Rodgers was going to have another one of those crappy Aaron Rodgers years. And all he did was throw for 48 touchdowns and 4 picks or something like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. All he did was have a career high in touchdowns. Now, just to touch on the Rams a little bit, because honestly, I think this team is great. What can they do? What do you guys think they can do to get better and to take that next step? Do you think Jared Goff is that guy? Do you think they just need a weapon? What do you think they need?
I think they need another weapon. I'm not really sure that their wide receivers right now are really overwhelming. They're not something that's going to really make a defensive coordinator, not be able to sleep at night. So I think if they were able to get a playmaker, whether through free agency, trade, or the draft. There's a lot of ways that they can do that, but I think it would be best for them to add a weapon to that offense. I like Tyler Higbee as their tight end. I'm not sure how young a lot of their offensive line is. I do know Whitworth is like 57 years old, so maybe it'd be best of them to continue to protect their quarterback if they're going to plan to invest in Goff and stick with him long term.
See, now I've seen Jared Goff's DNA test, and he's 100% that guy. In my opinion, he is completely legit. I think Jared Goff has all the tools to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, he's not right now, but he has all the tools to do it. He's the right size. He's got a great arm. And we talk about adding weapons. I mean, the guy Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, all they do is grab 10 balls every game, and Higbee is a nice weapon. Cam Akers looks like he's coming along. He is a rookie. If I was going to add anything to that team, I would add a really fast, impactful defensive end. Somebody that when you double team Aaron Donald, you're going to pay for it because that end is going to be one-on-one.
I agree. I think a defensive end would hold an entirely huge impact. To the wide receiver point, I mean, there are a litter of them that are free agents this year. Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, the list goes on and on. Antonio Brown, Curtis Samuel. There's a lot this year. Will Fuller. So I think a lot of these teams, I think, are going to be able to add a weapon. But I agree. I love Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, but also I don't think either strikes fear.
Yeah, I think those guys really do a lot between the numbers. But when it comes to the red zone, I don't really think those guys are the difference makers that the Rams need.
And to the second game, the Bills versus the Ravens. Again, no shocker here if you're in Sully camp because Lamar Jackson isn't a good quarterback. So he's not going to win you playoff games, plain and simple. But Josh Allen overcame some early struggles and played really well. And that defense played extremely well. What do you think of this Bills team? Are they legit or what? They got a shot of this thing? Can they actually beat the Chiefs again or what?
I think they absolutely have a chance. I think the stage is going to continue to get bigger for Josh Allen. So hopefully, the jitters don't overtake him and the offense's ability to be able to make a difference early in games. You don't want to dig a hole against a team like Kansas City. But I think in that matchup that they had against the Ravens, they passed a lot more than I expected them to. I think early on I saw a graphic that said that there was like 23 pass plays to 1 run play. So it was really shocking to see that there wasn't as much balance as I expected from an NFL program run by Brian Daboll. But overall, I think the Bills did what I expected them to do. I thought it was going to be a much closer game, but it seemed much more defensive throughout the first half.
To me, they're a legitimate number 2 seed. I mean, that's what they are. And I don't think they're as good as the Chiefs, but I also don't want to count my chickens before they hatch and think about how they'll do against the Chiefs because the Chiefs could lose to the Browns today. I mean, that is a possibility. And then we look like idiots trying to predict this Bills-Chiefs matchup, So for me, I think that just looking at the team, the biggest impact to me is that acquisition of Stephon Diggs in the offseason. I mean, the guy had 10 grabs, and you add a receiver like that. And I like John Brown. I really do. But he's not Stephon Diggs. And so I think giving Josh Allen that kind of a weapon as a receiver only helps him, and we've seen that in his accuracy numbers this year, which went from 59% to like 69% or 68%. Like he was really legit this year, and I think that this team is going to be a really tough team to beat, primarily because of their defense. Though I think that if their defense can lock down whoever they're playing against, it gives them a chance. Personally, even though I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, I do think the Chiefs are the favorite, and I would, if they were to play against the Chiefs, I would pick them to lose to the Chiefs, but I would pick them to win against the Browns.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Diggs is one of those guys that does scare defenses as far as a wide receiver. But it also does help to have a guy like Cole Beasley, too. I think he's a guy that continues to get first downs and those, over-the-middle catches. So that offense isn't just some schlup. So I think between their offense and their defense, I'm pretty sure their head coach, Sean McDermott, started as a defensive guy. So I think this team is really well-rounded, and I'm excited to see what they do in the next round, whether it's against Cleveland or Kansas City. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to preview the next game, Sully. That's your car to drive, but I hope we do.
No, yeah.
Well, I just don't want to step on your toes. So a couple more comments. My aunt says, hi, Wayne. So, hi, Kate. How's it going?
Nice. Everybody's aunts are jumping up. What's up?
And then our Triple Shot Sports brother here, Brandon Combs, says, too much talk about Lamar losing the game. They missed 3 field goals, and the Bills' defensive game plan was pretty flawless. And then, of course, he says this was more about the Bills' defense than Lamar not getting it done.
See, I hate that kind of
why not both?
Exactly. Why not both? Why could he not play poorly? And the defense also played well. Like, the guy didn't play well. There's a lot of times where defense plays well. How many times has Tom Brady been in a defensive game and the guy balls out and still does something great and wins the game? Now, I know we're not trying to compare Lamar Jackson to Tom Brady, but still, like, great quarterbacks do great things in great times. Aaron Rodgers just lit up the number one defense in the league. Like, don't tell me Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback, because he's not.
He's got to pass the ball more.
He does. They just have to pass the ball more. I get scheme in the running, but you can't take that many hits as a quarterback, and you have to pass to succeed in the playoffs, like you just do.
And I'd seen the comment that a running quarterback will never ever win a Super Bowl. They said like somebody like Patrick Mahomes, he's not a running quarterback. He's a quarterback who can run. Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback who can run. You will never find a quarterback where the offense is predicated on them carrying the ball 15 to 18 times a game that can win a Super Bowl.
I agree with that comment.
I think at that point your offense becomes too predictable.
Exactly. 100%. Now, what do these Ravens do to take the next step? Because now this is 2 years in a row that they've been elite, a good, solid team. Maybe not elite this year, but a good team, and they've fallen short again of expectations. Where do they go to address? Do they get a receiver? Do they get a defensive talent? I think personally they need a lot of offensive line help, but beyond that, what do you think they guys need?
I think they start on offense because I think they made plenty of additions on that defensive side. Calais Campbell. They drafted Queen. I think their defense was really stand out this year. I think they did a great job. I think the help is really to be had on the offensive side. I think they have a good running back in Dobbins who can both run and catch the ball. So I would say it's got to be offensive line or receiver that they're going to need help in.
Yeah, so for me, I know we had them drafting Wyatt Davis in our mock draft, which obviously would be a help to them. I don't think they necessarily need an offensive weapon. They did get J.K. Dobbins last year. I think he's going to be tremendous. He fits in with what they do. I do like Marquise Brown. Obviously, I like the tight end is Andrews, is a great tight end. So for me, looking at that, like you said, Jesse, the defense is always stacked. They just plug in anybody there, and their defense is going to be a top 3 defense. So for me, what I think that they need the most isn't something you can get through the draft, and that is a new offensive coordinator. I think they need somebody to bring in to work with Lamar Jackson and say, listen, we need you to be more of a passer. This is how we're going to scheme our game plans from now on, as you as a passer. And if you can't cut it, then we need to get another quarterback. But we're not going to win doing it this way.
I agree.
No, I actually agree. I mean, you've got to find somebody that's able to mold him into a player that can pass the football and develop an offense, maybe like Kyle Shanahan's, to where you use his movement to make passing easier for him, where he's rolling out and throwing and things like that. Throws he likes and he can easily make. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Now, Brandon does say he's not a great quarterback, but his 69 touchdowns, 18 interception ratio would say he's a pretty good quarterback.
I mean, no, it doesn't.
That's the ratio I care about.
Yeah, exactly. What's his playoff win record?
I mean, again, that can be misconstrued because you could have a great, like you said, you could be a quarterback throws for 400 yards a game, 4 touchdowns, and your defense sucks, and you go 0-3, and you're like, oh, what's your playoff record?
Yeah, but he's not. Look at his playoff.
Right, I'm just saying, I don't want to just use that as his thing. I mean,
look at his playoff stats. Look at his time when he's down in the fourth quarter. He's a great quarterback when he's up by 15. Yeah.
He can run the ball. That's what teams do when they're up.
Yeah.
I like the touchdown to interception ratio when we're talking about does he protect the football, which obviously he does. But my concern is his completion percentage and the yards per game. If you're completing 64% of your passes in a year where quarterbacks are setting records for completion percentage rates, you're really a 59 to 60% completion guy when there's fans in the stands. Secondly, if you're throwing for 197 to 210 yards per game, you're still not a passing quarterback. Like, you've got to be up in the 260 to 270 range.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's Cam Newton-esque. I think we also didn't mention the fact that Lamar Jackson didn't finish this game. Sully, I wanted to bounce it off you, but I was pretty sure that his leading to not finishing the game was part of a play where he threw an interception. He ended up getting concussed, I believe, on trying to tackle the play or get into that play where he threw an interception.
No, it wasn't an interception. It was intentional grounding safety. He got pushed down, and as he was falling backwards, his head slams back. And as soon as his head slams back, he reaches up and grabs his head too.
Okay.
So it did look kind of bad. It looked like it probably rocked him a bit. Like he whiplashes bad down. It wasn't a dirty play or a bad hit or anything like that. It was just the way he lands. And it is what it is. It's an unfortunate thing. It's tough to blame him for that. Obviously, like you can't knock the guy for that. I mean, he was 14-24 before that though. So like, he wasn't lighting the world on fire or anything.
Brandon does kind of say what I said. Peyton Manning had a losing record in the playoffs, but like we mentioned, he also threw for 300 yards a game.
And show his playoff stats. He wasn't the reason they were losing games.
His first 9 seasons in the NFL, he was horrible in the postseason.
I don't know about horrible. But
I don't know. I'd have to look into it. I know he was like a one and done guy. Like he was the Kevin Garnett of quarterbacks. And then we have David Stanley says Ravens need to take note on what the Bills did in getting an elite receiver that will push Lamar to the passing threat. I don't know, because Josh Allen was still throwing the ball 35 times a game before he had Stephon Diggs. He just wasn't completing a lot of them. They don't trust Lamar Jackson to throw it 35 times a game. He's throwing it 18 to 25 times a game. And so I think that adding an elite receiver, yeah, it helps. But again, I think that their need is more of an offensive game plan altogether. Marquise Brown is a really good receiver, but he needs a better game plan.
I don't think Marquise Brown's a 1 though.
No, but I'd say he's a 1B. Like he's kind of a 2, but I think he's a solid top end 2, but I don't think I'd ever want him as my number 1 guy. But this isn't like a passing team though, so I guess like are they going to go out and try to get a number 1 guy?
Hey, so Combs did bring up the fact that the Ravens kicker Tucker ended up missing 3 field goals.
That was wild. I forgot.
Shocking because he is probably one of the better kickers in the NFL right now, and
the most accurate of all time.
I think he's the most accurate kicker of all time.
So for him to miss 3 in one game is definitely a shock.
That wind was whipping though.
There were doinks.
That wind was whipping.
Hey, you get a scraping claw for points, and you can't really trust and rely on your quarterback.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, 9 missed points is a lot of missed points. So,
absolutely.
And then that's a pick 6. Like that was one of the touchdowns was a pick 6. So I mean, that's a lot. So, all right. Well, fuck it. Let's just jump into the previews of today's game, and we're gonna not start with the most exciting game of the day. So we'll start with the Browns and the Chiefs. Baker Mayfield and that Browns team looks scary. I talked about last week how I think they're a team that's kind of set up to win playoff games. They got an unfortunate draw with the Chiefs here because the Chiefs are a juggernaut. But what do you guys think? Where are we going here?
Have you guys seen plenty of the highlights of their college, the Oklahoma Texas Tech? Because I've seen that at least 3 or 4 times.
That game was fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be 65 to 58.
No. I don't think we're putting up, what is it, like 1,600 yards of offense. But I think it's going to be a good game. I think that this Cleveland team is no joke. This isn't the Cleveland team that, we grew up making fun of with that, laundry list of names on the back of their jersey. I think the running backs are for real. I think Baker has certainly matured over the years. His offense is certainly going to help him. I mean, not having Odell there, I think maybe it's helped him. It's helped him and that offense. But I give this team a chance. I don't think that they're going to get steamrolled. I know that Kansas City has just a litany of weapons, and they are for sure, the number 1 seed, the legit number 1 seed. But I give Cleveland more of a chance than I think I would have in any previous year.
Well, for sure. And I think that, Brandon comments, he says Browns 38-35. And I think that it's not unrealistic to think the Browns could win this game. Because I think that they could win this game. I just think if it's going to be a shootout, the Browns lose this game. You cannot get into a shootout with the Chiefs. They have way too many weapons. I mean, their backup running back is Le'Veon Bell, who might be the best receiving back in the NFL. There's just so many weapons. What I think the Browns could do to win this game is you touched on, Jesse. They've got 2 legitimate starting running backs. And so with Chubb and Hunt, you can basically just pound and pound and pound and pound and keep Mahomes off the field. That's the only way you beat this team. If you try to beat them in a shootout, you are going to lose, and we're going to see Baker Mayfield look as bad as he's been all year.
We've seen.
I think Myles Garrett needs to have a big day too, though.
Yeah, he does. He needs to get to him at least once or twice.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really important for the Browns. I think Myles Garrett has to get to Patrick Mahomes. He's got to create some kind of havoc in the backfield, and I agree with you, Wayne. They got to run the football. To be fair, that's a no-lose situation for Brandon. He picks him 38-35. He looks like a star. They lose. It's like, the Browns are supposed to lose anyway. So don't give me that shit, Brandon.
Well, his take is the Chiefs play down to their competition all year, and that bites them in the ass today.
They did lose to the Raiders, who are not a superior team by any stretch. Missed the playoffs. But I think even in the scenarios where the Chiefs have had to have limited offensive opportunities, because teams have tried that strategy where they've tried to keep Patrick and the offense on the sideline. They have such an electric offense, such a dynamic offense. Their weapons can score in a matter of seconds, especially with Tyreek Hill. It's a nice game plan in theory and on paper, but putting it into action and then putting up points yourself is the actual struggle. So I hope that you're going to have to see a huge game from a guy like Jarvis Landry. That guy has to put up 10 to 12 catches. You hope one of them ends up in the end zone. And the running backs too. I mean, they're going to have to put up, I would think, at least 150, 200 rushing yards as a team.
No, we talked about running quarterbacks and how Patrick Mahomes has the ability to get out and run, and that can hurt you once you have all the receivers covered. We saw the Patriots get killed with it all year because they play man-to-man every game, and they'll cover the receivers great. They have a great secondary, but then the quarterback just runs for 12 yards, no matter who the quarterback is, because there's that open lanes because everybody's in coverage. My question is, do you think Jabril Peppers is used as a spy today?
He very well may be. I mean, it would be a solid game plan. It's one that, I mean, honestly, Mahomes is at his best when he is improvising and things like that, because then you're trying to cover Tyreek Hill like on a random, then it's just flag football. You know what I mean? And you can't cover Tyreek Hill playing flag football. So it's like, those guys are going to get open. It would be a good game plan. I think the difference there too is going to be, again, like I said, I hate to harp on it, Myles Garrett, and he's got to get there and he's got to create havoc. If he lets Mahomes sit in his spot, it's going to be a long day for the Browns, I think.
Yeah, the longer Patty has to think and play with his weapons, the more dangerous they are. So the faster that defense can get to him, if they can throw some linebacker pressure at him, if they can maybe bring a safety blitz, they certainly have to mix it up as a defense and get to Patrick Mahomes a few times. They have to make him uncomfortable.
All right, so real quick, it's 9.5. Over-under set at 57. What do we got?
Ooh.
And you know who it's 9.5 in favor for. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Wayne, you go first.
I'd take the points in the over. I do think, like I said, the Browns don't want to be in a shootout, but they're going to end up in one, I think.
I'm taking the points in the under.
I think I'm laying them and going the over.
It's a lot of points. Yeah, I mean,
I think don't get me wrong. The Browns are playing well. They're still the fucking Browns.
They don't win in a shootout like Wayne said. There's no way if it's that many points that they're in it, because that means that Kelsey and Hill and the running backs for the Kansas City Chiefs have gotten into it. So that
38-20.
That would scare me if it's that many points.
38-20.
Oh, so even if you take the points, then they cover the spread at 38-20, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, so you're giving up the points?
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm laying the points.
I didn't know what laying means. It's fucking.
Oh yeah. Chiefs 9.5 is what I'm
gambling novice. Like.
All right. So, and then next game we got is the eventual Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the soon to be crying like babies New Orleans Saints. We got this in the Superdome, which I'm not really a fan of. And in a spot where we've lost the last two, but it's playoff time. So what do we think, guys?
Well, I'm surprised you don't like the fact that it's inside the dome, because I would be nervous for you if the night was shown, because Tampa Tom doesn't really like playing at nighttime. He's a sleepy boy.
That's right. At 9 o'clock bedtime.
You should be glad that, they're not going to show him that it's nighttime. Maybe they'll paint that it's daytime up there. But I think overall this is going to be a fantastic game. It's probably going to be the closest game of every matchup we've seen this weekend. Obviously one of historic proportions when we look at the two quarterbacks in play, but of course they're not going to be on the field at the same time. I think that my heart wants me to take the Saints. My head says it's going to be the Bucs, because I just don't believe that an NFL team can beat another NFL team 3 times in one season. I want to believe that they can, but I just think that it's going to be too difficult for the Saints and Sean Payton to do that. I think that on the other side, you're going to have Brady, Leftwich, and Arians getting their head together and using every healthy weapon they have to advance to the next stage.
Yeah, Brandon says the Bucks 27-23. So a lot of close games here in Brandon's eyes, and he also says Drew Brees is 5-2 versus Brady, but I fail to believe anyone beats Brady 3 times in a season. Brady in the playoffs gets my pick every time. Now,
playoff time.
It's solid logic, so I can't argue the logic of it. But I will say this: that 75% of Tom's playoff wins have come in the snow or come in the cold. Tom might be the best bad weather quarterback in the history of the NFL. And I'm curious what his playoff record is against dome teams or in a dome or in warm weather. Obviously he's 6-3 in the Super Bowl, which is always warm weather or a dome. I think that the Saints are going to win this game. Now, so unlike Jesse, my heart is with the Buccaneers because as a Patriots fan, I still root for Tom. I want Tom to keep winning. But I think that the Saints defense has his number. I think that their ability to control the ball, not only on the ground with Kamara, but through the passing game, which Drew Brees does as good as anybody. I would say that the Saints are probably going to win this game.
So my heart is obviously with the Bucks, and my head is torn here because I think a lot's going to have to do with how our offensive line plays. Because I think that's what's dictated the last 2 games is Cameron Jordan just absolutely destroying Tristan Wirfs and making him look like a rookie tackle. Now, Tristan Wirfs is, one of the better rookie tackles, graded as the highest rookie tackle, is, one of the better rookies this entire season. But nonetheless, Cameron Jordan is a solid all-pro. He's good, and he's going to make you look bad. Tom Brady needs time, I think, to operate in this offense. It's an offense that isn't just quick shooting, in my opinion. It's players like, running overlying routes and players getting open behind other guys and things like that. So hopefully we can get time. And obviously I think we're going to win. I would think it's 28-21 more so, maybe 28-24 or something like that. I think it is going to be a pretty close game. Line set at 2.5 New Orleans with an over under of 53. So
how healthy are the receivers for the Bucks, Sully? Godwin and Evans. Heard they're not really 100%. Are they actually? Or
no, I don't think anybody is 100% right now. To be fair, like at this time, it's week 19 in the NFL season. You know what I mean? But yeah, they're a little dinged up. I don't think it's going to stop them in any way. The issue is Lattimore's historically shut Mike Evans kind of down. He plays extremely well against him, and I think Mike Evans needs to kind of succeed. If he doesn't, Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown need to really step up. So,
what I like about Brandon's comments about that, Jesse. Brandon's comment says a different team than they were weeks 1 and 9. AB is clicking. I think Antonio Brown could be
as well.
Yeah, so Antonio Brown to me is the X factor here because we talk about teams that need a one receiver. Like Antonio Brown is a one receiver, and he's their third receiver. So that's the danger that they pose.
Yeah. So also, 2.5. What do we got?
You said it was 2.5.
It's 2.5 for New Orleans, minus 2.5 New Orleans, over under at 53. What do we got?
I'm taking the over. And I'm taking the Saints, and I think they're going to beat them by more than that spread.
Is it 43?
53.
I'm going to take New Orleans in the over as well. The last one I think was 38-3 or something like that, which is 41. I think the Bucs are going to put up more points, but I still think it's going to be. I think they're going to cover the spread, and I think the Saints are going to win. Just a couple more comments we had here. Dave Sullivan stats say that the team encountering a team after beating them twice in a row wins 65% of the time. So that's a good stat.
Heard what I
and
thought.
Then Brandon has said, points and under all day long.
Agreed. You take the points and you take this under. This game will not go over 53. That one I'm pretty sure of.
You really
which means I'm Eddie the Mush, so put the money on the over right now, folks.
and Ronald Jones, Sully, is that someone that the Bucs are going to be able to rely on to carry the ball?
No, Leonard Fournette's the start. Ronald Jones in 100%. Leonard Fournette's the start, but I mean, I think we're going to use last week we used Keyshawn Vaughn a lot, and he was involved more. I think we're going to continue to do that. I just think we're going to try to use every weapon. What are you waiting for? What are you holding back at this point? You know what I mean? So I think that's where we're going to go with this.
Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Right. Now, before we get off the NFL, there's been a gluttony of hires. Robert Salat of the Jets. Somebody I had no idea who his name is. Wayne, what's his name? Oh, here we go. Arthur Smith.
Yeah,
to the Falcons. Yeah, truthfully, I didn't even know he was a person. And then Bill O'Brien, we'll talk about it, leaves the NFL, goes to Alabama. So what do you guys think about these hires? First, we'll start with Robert Salat of the Jets.
I think that's a fantastic hire. I think when you look at the side-by-side of him and Adam Gase, one actually looks like a motivator and an NFL coach, and the other looks like a goofball. So I think that's a fantastic hire for them. I think that he's a guy that was highly coveted for some time, and he picked a spot. And I think if he can succeed in New York, whether it's with Darnold or someone else, then that'll be really huge for him. But it's also a huge stage.
Yeah, I mean, I like Robert Saleh a lot. I think that this is a guy who is going to win a lot of football games eventually with the team. He is a motivator, like you said. That's his high energy. I think that's what this team needs. They've been down in the dumps so long that having a guy come in and high-fiving people and just having that energy is going to be great for them. Rex Ryan was that guy, and he did really well with the Jets. I don't know. I mean, he's also a genius at blitzing. But I think that I like Robert Saleh as a hire. I like – we didn't mention it, but Urban Meyer, I think, is going to be an interesting hire with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm curious what you guys think as far as who he hires as his coordinators. The guy from the Titans, I don't know if I would offer him a head coaching job. He must have interviewed really well because his strategy has basically been hand it to the 250-pound running back that runs a 4.4. So,
and to hire for the Falcons where they don't run the football at all. That's not. They have one of the best wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver tandem in the league, in Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand this guy has led a fantastic offense the last 2 seasons, but I don't see the mesh of the teams personally. If you send him to, I don't even know, but somewhere that actually runs the football and things like that, like, then I think it would have fit more. This one I don't understand at all.
I think it's unfair for someone like myself or you guys, if you're willing to give Ryan Tannehill any type of praise for improving his game without giving any of that to Arthur Smith. He's been the offensive coordinator with Tennessee during Tannehill's tenure. And I've seen him steadily improve year after year and become less of a backup situation in Miami and a failed first-round pick to being someone who has taken the Titans into the playoffs the last couple of years and looked more than serviceable. So I think Arthur Smith, probably earned his shot when you look at his whole body of work. I'm not sure if, coaching is the entire problem with Atlanta. When you look at Matt Ryan on the downslope and you look at that defense continuing to give up leads, I think they give up more leads than anybody I've ever seen. And as far as Wayne, your question with Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, I think he definitely needs to rely heavily on NFL experience at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. He's stepping into a world he doesn't really know. I know football is football, but this is a different type of game. They're playing at a different speed. And he didn't really run a pro-style offense down in any of his programs. So I think he's going to need someone who runs pro-style offenses in the NFL. Because I don't think what he used in college is going to end up being successful here in the NFL.
Now, I want to say, as far as the you mentioned the Tannehill and his career being turned around with this guy as the offensive coordinator, it's really a double-sided coin, because if we're going to give him credit for Tannehill's success, I also want to give him credit for Mariota's lack of success. So it's, you got one. It's the same thing. And so I don't know if he's an offensive genius. Like, we've heard the guys like, Brian Billick was called that. Josh McDaniels is called that. These guys that are just able to scheme no matter who their personnel is. If all he can do is scheme with Tannehill and he couldn't scheme with Mariota, I think that how's he going to do in Atlanta? It's still a question mark for me. we talked about coordinators again. I don't know an offensive coordinator. I think the perfect defensive coordinator for him would be Matt Patricia, who has obviously anyone you can get from the Patriots is great. Chad O'Shea as an offensive coordinator, maybe. These are guys that you want to bring in because they have that winning pedigree. And Patricia obviously is a rocket scientist. That helps. But I think he's also very low key. So I was thinking if you don't want to bring in somebody like a Rex Ryan type, who's got the big personality, because Urban Meyer is very low key, and so I don't think you want to bring in somebody who's going to overshadow you personality wise. Patricia's that guy. He's a very quiet dude, and I think that he knows the game of football. So that's who I would use as my defensive coordinator. Real quick, Brandon did have a question for us. This quick NFL question for you guys: is Davante Adams the best wide receiver in the NFL? I have him fourth behind Hopkins, DK, and Julio. DK shouldn't be on that list.
DK shouldn't be on that list. I don't think.
Where's
Davante Adams really high though? Really, really, really high.
Yeah, he's for sure a top 3 or 4 receiver. But yeah, DK is not on that list for me.
He's as high as number. To me, D-Hop is number 1. I mean, he's the best receiver in the NFL.
I think he's the best receiver in the NFL.
Then I guess you have the argument between Davante Adams and Julio. Julio has not been Julio for the past couple of seasons, so that would put Adams ahead of him. Michael Thomas is another guy. He didn't have a great year this year.
I don't have Michael Thomas in my top 5 at all.
Anybody who can catch 120 balls in a year is solid to me.
Not catch per clip is 2.8 yards.
But he's not Edelman or Welker. He's actually a legit big wide receiver. I don't know. Anyways, so for me, it's Hopkins number 1. So Adams as high as number 2.
I would agree. I'd probably have Adams. The lowest I'd have Adams is 3, I think. And I'd have to because I have Tyreek Hill really high up there too. I think he does a lot more than just go deep, and I obviously having Patrick Mahomes helps, but I think he'd be a star pretty much anywhere. But I digress.
For Jacksonville OC, you guys actually mentioned this guy in your last show, Marvin Lewis. I don't think he's ready for a jump from being unemployed to then an NFL head coach, but maybe that transition to being an experienced NFL mind could get him to be an OC in Jacksonville with Urban Meyer.
He'd have to be a defensive coordinator. He wasn't an offensive guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I'm not sure Urban Meyer would want to go with an experienced head coach kind of NFL guy on offense, because I think Urban Meyer's going to run his offense. That's always been his baby. That's been his clip. That's his thing. I think he may want to kind of keep that to a guy that is going to maybe not conform to what he wants, but kind of, go with his flow, kind of what he wants to run, things like that. I don't think he should take it on himself, because I think when a coach wears multiple hats, that's when they fail for the most part. But I don't expect him to hire a big name. I like the Matt Patricia for defensive coordinator though.
I do like that. Brandon does say about Patricia. He says Patricia didn't look like a rocket scientist in Detroit. Well, I'll say it's different being a head coach and being a defensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels is an offensive genius, and he did not look like a good head coach in Denver.
Who's he hiring? Who's he getting looked at right now?
Eagles. The Eagles are interviewing him.
That's right. Put in to talk to him. That's right. I actually like that fit a lot. I'm not going to lie.
I don't think it's a great fit.
I think he'd make Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts a really good quarterback.
I think he waits it out in New England, and because he's still getting paid like a head coach. He's probably the 13th highest paid coach in the NFL right now, and he's the offensive coordinator. So it's it's not about money. At this point, it's just about, can I run my own team? And does he really want to do that, or does he want to wait out Belichick? Because working for the Patriots, whether they're 7-9 or 14-2, that's a really good situation in New England. So it's that's a situation you want to take over. The culture is already established. You're just keeping it going.
That's true. Excuse me. All right, now let's move on to the college game a bit here, and give the old Bama boy his congrats down there. Congratulations on the national championship. Alabama looked fantastic. I'm honestly a little upset we didn't get a Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, kind of shit going on there. I think they'd have put up a better fight than Ohio State would have. In either case, congratulations. Alabama looked great. Devontae Smith he's special. So yeah, it's congratulations, man.
Yeah, that boy needs a whole room for his trophies. I was actually working. It was my first night of work at my new job, and I'm working, 2 to 10:30. And so I had my headphones in, listening to that game as it's going, and I believe you guys were actually airing as that game was starting as well. So, it was pretty tight there as the game had started. It was, 7-7, then 14-14. And then Alabama really started to separate themselves. Najee Harris just really is a beast. Devonta Smith really flexed. I think in the first half alone, he had 12 catches, 3 touchdowns, and over 200 receiving yards.
Yeah.
That defense also just really bottled up Ohio State. I mean, it didn't help Ohio State at all that their feature running back Sermon was out early in the game. I think on their first drive, so that certainly impacted the game. But overall, I think Alabama was from wire to wire the best team in the nation, and I think they proved it on that night by winning by a couple scores. I think they ended up winning by 17 or 18. If not more. So that defense looks great too. Barmore is man. Did he make himself some money that night?
Yes, he did.
Where did you have him before the game, and where do you have him now, Sully? Because that defensive lineman, oh man, did he make it a nightmare? I think both during the Notre Dame game and that game against Ohio State, he was a nightmare.
Yeah, I had him at 32 to the Chiefs. He will definitely be moving up. He will definitely be in probably the teens, late teens, 20s, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's an Alabama team. I mean, they doubled their yardage. They had 621 yards to 341 yards. They dominated every aspect of the game. They are the best team in college football. I know there's an argument: are they the best team in college football history? Potentially. You look at this team; they cleaned house in the awards: quarterback, running back, Heisman. Pretty much every award Alabama won. Center. Center. It's like it doesn't really matter. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what you put them.
Every award they fucking won.
It's a phenomenal team, and it might be the best team of all time. We touched on it a few seconds ago with Bill O'Brien going there. Yeah. Awesome hire, such a good hire for that team.
Such a good hire. That culture is so incredible there.
I mean, when you can take guys who can't really find a home in the NFL right now, but have NFL head coaching experience, NFL off. I mean, he was Tom Brady's offensive coordinator, so it's like this is a guy who knows what he's doing, and you're getting an offensive coordinator. I mean, if he wasn't dead, the late great, so no disrespect, I wouldn't be surprised if they went out and get Monty Kiffin to be the defensive coordinator. Like, what they do.
Well, they did wonders for Monty Kiffin's son, Lane Kiffin. I mean, put him on the list of guys that helped turn around his career at Alabama. Same thing with a guy in the NFL right now who's now getting head coaching calls, Brian Daboll. He was an offensive coordinator for Alabama when they won the championship. Sarkisian. I mean, all these guys are, coming in there and, Nick Saban's basically, polishing them up and making them look real fancy with the weapons. I mean, not saying these guys don't have, offensive and, great football acumens as it is, but they get to flex it with all the toys that Alabama has. And I think, this 7th championship as a head coach really puts Nick Saban in his own stratosphere, even when you look at him against Bear Bryant.
Well, I was going to ask Sully, because Brandon had a draft question for him as well. He said, Sully, does this raise your draft stock on Devontae Smith? I mean, I think you had him 6th anyways, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, just because
Jamar Chase is still going to be the first.
That's what I mean. Like Jamar Chase, everybody just has
they forget about him.
Jamar Chase did all of this last year. He did the same exact thing with Joe Burrow last year, except he's 6'2", 205 pounds, and has a body and built like a wide receiver. Devontae Smith is unfortunately 6'2", 170 pounds.
Soaking wet.
Like soaking wet in a pair of football pads. I mean, you saw, I get it. The guy gets separation. He's great. I think he needs to gain 10 or 15. I'm not going to deny what he does on the field. There's insane talent. I just think Jamar Chase is the kid's super special too. He's a rare blue chip prospect.
Were you surprised to see Waddle play in that game, Sully?
I was, but
I know it was limited snaps, but I think he just wanted to show that.
My Achilles is back, and he looked good. And I had Waddle way ahead of Jalen Smith. I had Waddle as I think my number 6 overall prospect going into the season. So, and I think he's a much better actual pure wide receiver than Devontae Smith. So, I mean, I think they both have a shot to go top 10, top 15, because Jalen Waddle's going to run a stupid fast 40, and he's going to be stupid quick. He's the closest thing we've seen to Tyreek Hill, a guy that can get to 4.2 on his first step. Like that's so we'll see how the Achilles does with that.
I hope he doesn't show out too much in whatever combine they may be able to do. I don't know if there's any updates on what the NFL plans to do for combine. I know Wayne had touched on it last time, but I hope he doesn't show out too much, because I know you had given Waddle to the Patriots in your last mock. So
yes,
I want that type of weapon.
Exactly. I think he'd be scary. I really do, especially if you can get a quarterback as well in free agency. I think he'd be a good player.
I agree with Wayne, though. I mean, Pitts is a monster, too. I wouldn't be mad with that.
So realistically, I don't think Pitts lasts that long. It was tough to find a spot because what's going to happen is somebody's going to have a need at a position that there's a player, but Kyle Pitts is going to be there, and they're going to say, you know what, that's a weapon we can't pass. And I think that's what's going to happen with Pitts more than anything. And that's just tough to predict where somebody's going to take him. So I expect him to go way higher than 16. So that was kind of my issue with putting him at 15.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but I want to ask you both, how is Pitts as a blocker?
He doesn't exist as a blocker. He's Darren Waller. If you put him on the line, everybody knows he's not actually blocking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's telling. Okay.
I think Allen Robinson weighs more than Kyle Pitts.
Not really a tight end.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all really a tight end.
But he won the Mackey Award.
Yes. He's listed as a tight end, but you are not going to – he is not George Kittle. Not at all.
And that's why I always said that Gronk was the best of all time, because he's basically a second tackle out there, in terms of blocking. Plus, he runs a 4.6 and get open.
Yeah.
And his body control, I think, is what makes him special. He can adjust and find the ball better than almost anybody I've ever seen at the tight end position. It's wild.
And he's gotten better as the year goes on, too. I mean, some of the tight catches that he's been able to make, I think the emergence of, him, but more so, like you guys had said, Antonio Brown, makes Tampa so scary. It definitely worries me in that game. I don't mean to bring us back to the NFL, but that scares me there. But yeah, I mean, having Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator, I'm nervous because of what he's done, but I'm excited the fact that he can't start trading these players away. But I'm curious to see what he does. Because I know he won't be the big guy in control. Saban's always going to be that guy. But I'm definitely a mix of curious and nervous to see how Bill O'Brien will do there.
Well, you mentioned a great conversation. Is Nick Saban the greatest coach of all time, college football coach? I know he's got the 7 championships, like you mentioned. Bear Bryant has 6, and Bear Bryant also won those championships in a year when the press just named the national champion. You didn't have a playoff. Yeah. Now, a double-sided coin. Maybe if he had a playoff, he would have only had 2 championships. But the fact that I think Bear Bryant, I do put him a little bit ahead of Saban. Newt Rockne, even though it was a shorter career, Newt Rockne is like 105-12 in his career. He had 5 national championships, with Notre Dame. So, I mean, those are 2 guys I might put ahead of him, but I definitely think he's in the top, 3 to 5 conversation.
Yeah, in the era that he's won them in, and how they keep changing it up and trying to make them not win with the playoff and with the different formats. He's played and evolved. I mean, Alabama used to be the straight defensive team, and now they've got teams. They've got players winning the Heisman at quarterback and running back. So I think that he has proved more than any other coach how to win in an era where you're not supposed to win like he does.
Name the last 3 non-quarterback winning Heismans. Go.
Oh, it's Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry, and Devontae Smith.
Yep. All Alabama.
I was going to say Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram's in there,
Mark Ingram, that's what I meant, not Trent Richardson.
Yeah, Mark Ingram. All Alabama guys. So, I mean, they do it. They do it. All right, now, we only got 10 minutes, but we got to get to it. Fat boy to the Nets. Huge, massive trade. We talked about it a little bit. He had his debut last night. First player ever with a 30-point triple-double debut. The guy balls out.
Had 4 steals and a block, too.
I know. Here's the thing is when you call a guy with that much talent fat and you ridicule him and you beat him down that much, he's going to come back with a vengeance. I mean, guys we just got to remember these guys are elite athletes. When they want to be, turn it on. Most of them can. To be fair, Kevin Durant had 47 or something like that.
42, I think. Yeah.
42. He balled out. So, they look great. The team looks good, man. They're going to be really hard to beat, I think.
Durant looks scary good on offense again. I think he's one of the most lethal scorers that we have in the NBA today and probably have had all time. And as far as Harden, I'm pretty convinced he was wearing a fat suit. What he's lost in a week, no way, in that Rockets gear, he looks chunk. And then now, I mean, in that Nets gear, he didn't look like that. So that was a fat suit. I'm pretty sure that was like Nutty Professor-ish. But yeah, I mean, those two balled out. I'm sure Kyrie's still trying to figure out if the earth is flat. I don't know when or if we'll see him again. I'm curious to see how they'll integrate him and what it will do to the impact of that team and the offense. Because you guys have touched on it too, how ball dominant all three of those players are. So it's going to be curious to see how it works in game and, of course, at the end of games. But so far, one game in, looked deadly. I do hate that they lost Jared Allen, though.
Yeah, me too.
No, I think that the Kyrie Irving is a topic all of his own. For me, in terms of just the trade, again, James Harden's a special talent. He is a top 5 player in the NBA. He goes, I think it's a 30-point triple-double. And I mentioned it to you when you sent me the stats. It's just James Harden doing James Harden stuff. That's what he does. But I will say this, is that the Rockets still won that trade. If you look at this, basically the overall rebuild they went through, because there was really 2 trades, but let's just call it a 4-team trade for the sake of it. The Houston Rockets traded James Harden for Victor Oladipo and essentially 8 first-round picks. I mean, 4 unprotected first-round picks and then 4 pick swaps. So they basically got 8 first-round picks and Victor Oladipo for James Harden. That's a win. Not only the fact that Oladipo, which again is kind of another topic, but Oladipo I think fits amazing with John Wall and that team, although there are rumors that he might want to just go to Miami. He doesn't want to be in Houston.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's on the last year of his deal too. So it's kind of like a rent-a-player for this season. So they may have to move him real fast too to Miami. But I doubt, why would Miami move him if they know he just wants to come there anyway? So I don't know about that. I do think Houston won the trade for sure. I definitely do think they got the better end of the deal, because 8 picks can turn into God only knows what. You know what I mean? Like the sky's the limit. You have no idea. But from the net side, losing Jared Allen I think was tough. I personally would try to move Kyrie Irving for a top notch front court player, and get like a rim protecting big that would be on the market right now.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan's still going to get you some rebounds, but I mean, I was curious to get you guys' take. I mean, where does this put the Nets now? Do you have them finishing 2 or 3 in the East now?
I think for the
you
best
have
team
them beating out the Celtics.
Yeah, they're better than the Celtics. I mean, just talent-wise, I still think they, like Sully said, they have to move Kyrie Irving. I think that's going to be part of it. It's going to be hard because he's obviously really hurt his trade value with his antics over the last couple of weeks. So you're not going to get an elite player for him, even though he's still technically elite. You're going to have to get basically somebody who's on the fringe of elite, or somebody who maybe has had some injury problems, but when he's healthy, he's elite. You know what I mean? So I would look at a guy like, guys like Blake Griffin. Andre Drummond wants out of Cleveland, although I don't think Cleveland would take Kyrie back because of how that divorce went. But they could work out some sort of a 3-team trade. And I mean, if you add Andre Drummond to that Nets team, geez, I mean, then, yeah, it's no question, number one, they're going to the finals. But yeah, that's what I would do, is look some sort of trade. And speaking of Andre Drummond, just to get your guys' take, because he does want out, and the guy, all he's doing is averaging 23 and 18 or something like that in the season.
That's all he does for his life.
He just had a 30-20 game with the Cavs, and I'm pretty sure that was his 43rd 20-20 game. It's the most since the merger, only behind Moses Malone and Dwight Howard.
I mean, he's just an absolute monster. How he's not, like, I don't understand how he's not the most coveted player in the NBA.
He's improved his free throw game so much, too. I think he ended up going like 13 of 17 or 12 of 17. So in that game where he had 33 and like 22, he had double-digit free throws made. So, I mean, the guy certainly improved his game all around. He'll get you some blocks and some steals as well. So I fell in love with him as a Pistons fan. And then, I mean, I just want to see the dude win a ring. So I think, I agree with you, Wayne. If he's added to that Nets team, it's over.
And to answer your question, so the reason he's not mentioned in those conversations is because, one, lack of versatility in his offensive game. It's all dunks and layups and putbacks. And two, even though he pulls down 15 to 20 rebounds a game, he's not a very good defender.
No, I know that, but I mean, he's a really good offensive rebounder, which I think is like a super underrated skill in a lot of players.
Rebounding isn't as coveted as it used to be. It's not seen as like a third part of the game anymore. It's, can you score? Can you defend? And I think rebounding is certainly a part of the game that Drummond has always been able to produce.
All right. Well, we probably won't talk about it a lot, so let's get to it. The NHL started, and personally, I'm a big NHL fan. I'm a big Lightning fan. You guys know that. The Lightning look dominant. We're coming out there blowing the walls off of people. I know Wayne won't be able to speak on this at all, so you can just sit there and look pretty.
I think Leroy is going to repeat as the Hart Trophy.
Leroy is definitely going to repeat as the Hart
Leroy Hall.
Leroy Hall for the ship. And then also Francisco Lindor to the Mets. Absolutely massive deal. The Mets are becoming a real scary team in the MLB. Also, Wayne, you won't be able to talk on it, so sit there, look pretty.
I know baseball.
Oh, okay. All right. Just two big things that we weren't able to touch on really throughout the show, but maybe we can get a little time in here at the end.
Absolutely. NHL wise, I'm still a little hurt in my butt area about Zdeno Chara leaving Boston and going and signing with the Caps. Mm-hmm. But that did move Patrice Bergeron to the captain, and I think he's always been seen as that type of guy, and he's one of the better players I've ever seen with Boston. I'm a little curious to see how the Bruins will do this year. As far as Tampa, they do look dominant. They have not taken their foot off the gas pedal since winning the Stanley. And I'm curious to see how they'll do against teams like Pittsburgh. I'm not even sure who the upper echelon teams are because I know it's a
Colorado is scary good.
It's a condensed season. We went from playing 82 to how many games we're playing? 56.
I believe it's 56. I can't remember honestly.
Yeah, so they've chopped about 25 or so games off the season. So I'm curious to see what that will do for goalies and really all the NHL players as a whole. But as far as MLB. The Sox aren't really doing much, so that's what I can provide you there. Francisco Lindor being traded from the Indians over to the Mets was a huge deal. That offense is scary. They have
Alonso.
Yes, I was thinking of his nickname. Was it like
Polar Bear?
Polar Bear, yeah. I
love Alonso.
Baseball, I love that. They have such a young team that I'm excited for that team. I want to see that team win as opposed to the gross
New York team.
Yeah, the gross evil empire. So anything that other teams in baseball can do to keep them down. But I still see Brooklyn. I almost called them Brooklyn. The Dodgers over there in LA.
Still, what are you, 77?
I know, right? Fucking Brooklyn Dodgers. How old are you? They've been in Brooklyn since like '05.
Do my best Wayne impression. I still think they're the best team in baseball.
I agree.
And what happened to the Rays?
What?
What happened to the Rays, man? Did they just ship off everybody?
I mean, we still got Randy Arozarena, bro. Watch out, bro. Blake Snell wanted a ton of money. He wanted a lot of money, and we couldn't. We can't pay people that kind of money. So we're going to trade you.
Yeah, I think I'm glad to see the Mets get more offense because I don't know if I can watch my boy Jacob deGrom go one more season with a 1.89 ERA and go 10-12.
10-12.
So it's like finally get some offense out there. Although it could be like Clemens with the Rockets again. Rockets with the Houston Astros.
What is with both of you?
Yeah, Clemens with the Astros, where he had a losing record, but he had an ERA under 2, just because the team would score runs when he wasn't pitching. Sometimes that happens. As far as hockey, my 2 cents on it. You mentioned Sully. Colorado does look great. I think Nathan McKinnon could be your Hart Trophy winner.
That's a very good prediction, Wayne.
Yeah, I think that might be, and then of course my Rookie of the Year prediction for the NHL would be Alexis Lafreniere from the Rangers. I think that's a couple of names a lot of people out there don't know if they don't really follow hockey. I pulled them off of USA Today's predictions, so
nice.
not to pat myself too hard on the back. I just read it and wrote it down.
They're not bad. I'll tell you, Nate McKinnon looks incredibly good. The kid's just everything you want in a hockey player. He's a leader. He's a scorer. He's a defender. He's really good. It's tough to knock out Connor McDavid. Possibly from that spot, or Leon Draisaitl, Leroy Hall, whichever one. The both of them are just monsters, and potential, 100-point scorers in full seasons. But yeah, Nate McKinnon looks really, really good. Cole Makar, I don't know how to pronounce Makar. I don't know how you pronounce it. He's a legitimate stud in the back end. That team's going to be really hard to beat coming out of the West. or whatever division they're in now.
Yeah, it's been a little mixed up this year. It's going to be
I don't even know them all now. So
the baseball move that I really liked, and I didn't have to look this one up, was Corey Kluber to the Yankees.
Yeah.
1 year, $11 million. That's a great gamble for them because if he does return to his Cy Young form, I mean, that rotation is ridiculous, and their lineup's already stacked. So
it's been a couple of years since he's looked
really good, though. Yeah.
Last year, I think he in his one outing for the Rangers, he ended up tearing something. So
he got lit up too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of money for a guy who hasn't really been his normal self in a couple seasons, but I mean, it's a scratch ticket for.
And it's baseball. $11 million ain't shit.
Especially. So they've got an endless payroll.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll do it, boys.
Hey, thanks for having me back on the show. Yeah. An awesome opportunity to talk about Alabama and the NFL playoffs.
Did we miss anything, Wayne?
No, I mean, I think we hit all the high points. Let me just take a look real quick through my notes. No, yeah, it looks like we got, again, pretty much all, again, there are little nuances to some of the topics, but I think we hit all the big points.
All right.
Hey, game start in just a few hours here, guys. We've got
I'm excited.
First game is Cleveland and Kansas City. So I'll be
sending the Bucks. Let's get it.
I'm getting some pizza and wings ordered. So
is that part of that 75-day diet?
No, don't tell the guys.
It's diet pizza, all right?
Dude, I was doing this wild diet right now where I'm not eating any food and I just drink protein shakes and water. It's disgusting. It's like 1,800 calories, like max, or like 1,500 calories. It's the most horrendous thing I've ever done in my life, and I hate every part of it. But I lost like 9 pounds in like 3 days. Shit's been lit.
I'm gonna send you a picture of my pizza and wing.
No, don't do that, please. I legitimately had to get up and leave the break room yesterday because people were eating food and I could smell it, and it was like making me angry.
Getting turned on.
Jesse, you want to throw us out to Kenny? Wayne, you got the one graphic ready for today?
Yep.
Absolutely. Kenny, in the Kansas City Cleveland game, you taking the under or the over?
Oops.
It's over, ladies and gentlemen.